Okay, we're going to look at special angles. We did special angles in grade 10 and even in grade 11. Let's just go over this story with special angles. Sometimes they ask you to figure out things without a calculator. And what you have to do is they give you angles like 30, 45, 60, and sometimes like 0, 180, and 90. Well, if they ever give you the 30, 45, or 60 degrees, you've got two special triangles. You've got to memorize them, and you've got to write them down when you use this. If you go make a hypotenuse of 2, an opposite side of 1, the one straight up is 1, and this is root 3, well, that's, yeah, this is right. Anyways, if you go 1, 2, root 3, that'll be 30 degrees there, and that'll be 60, because the cosine of 60 degrees is adjacent over hypotenuse. You see 1 over 2. And it says the cosine of 60 degrees is 1 over 2. And but the sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2. The sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2. Let's look at the sine of 30 degrees. Well, that's 1 over 2, opposite over hypotenuse. So you've got to memorize this triangle. You can write it slightly differently. You can put the 60 down the bottom. I usually do. That's why I got a little confused there. And here you've got 1, 1, and root 2 for 45 degrees. So the tangent of 45 degrees, opposite over adjacent, is 1 over 1. And the hypotenuse is root 2. Let's take a look. So you can see cosine is 1 over root 2, sine is 1 over root 2 as well. Well, turns out that if you press the sine of 30 degrees, you'll get the same answer as pressing the sine of 150 degrees. It'll go to become a different sign down here, but it'll be exactly the same answer, but negative for 210 and 330. Let's take a look at why that's true. Well, if you go to 150 degrees, and I like to use this thing, go to where it is, and then think of this thing, I call it the wedge, but the reference angle. If I go to 150 degrees, we care about the angle that's formed with the horizontal. That's 30 degrees. It's called your reference angle. Well, that means that the sine of 150 degrees is the same as the sine of 30 degrees. And you just have to go back here to say, but sine is positive up there in the second quadrant. Why? Because y is positive. Okay, let's do 210 degrees. Say you have the sine of 210 degrees. Well, 210 degrees, where is it? It's 30 degrees past 180. That makes the angle between the horizontal here and the 210 degrees 30 degrees. That's the wedge, or the reference angle, 30 degrees. But sine is negative down here because only tangent is positive. Remember that, all stations to Cape Town, only tangent is positive here. So it would be negative the sine of 30 degrees. And if we had to figure out, we'd go, oh yeah, the sine of 30 degrees is opposite over hypotenuse. It's 1 over 2. And that's kind of how you do it. One other thing you might get is, what if they asked you to figure out, say, what's the sine of 270 degrees, or the cosine of 270 degrees, or even the tangent? Well, what you have to do is you need to know the basic trig graphs. If you have to know that sine starts at 0, goes up to 1, back to 0, minus 1, and 0. That's the way sine works. And at 270 degrees, it's minus 1. At 90 degrees, it's 1. And 180 degrees, it's 0. And sine, cosine, you have to know it's the same wave, but it starts at 1, then 0, minus 1, 0, and 360 degrees back to 1. So if they say, what's the cosine of 180 degrees, you can draw this picture and just show that it's equal to minus 1. And you have to know the basic tangent graph, that the tangent of 0 is 0, but the tangent of 90 degrees is undefined. This graph goes infinitely up and gets closer and closer to 90 degrees, but doesn't touch it. And then down here, it's negative. At 180 degrees, it's 0. At 45 degrees, it's 1. The tangent of 45 degrees is 1. We know that from the special triangle. But you need to know these three basic graphs to show without a calculator how you know what the cosine, sine, or tangent of these main things, 90, 180, 270, like that. Okay, I've made up questions here where you have to go to where it is, get the reference angle, and figure out the sign of the thing, and then simplify it. And use a special triangle to simplify the question. And it says without a calculator, if you use your calculator, you just don't get any marks at all. So I'll let you give this a try now.